Hi and welcome to Upsiders Information. In today's video, I will go over this upcoming partial solar eclipse in Aries on the 29th. Solar eclipses are new moons, and new moons are usually like portals of manifestation for new beginnings, but with eclipses it gets intensified and they have a volatile nature. It's important to understand that this is not necessarily the day off, but it opens up a window of opportunities for about 6 months to a year and a half, depending on the intensity and the ripple effects. Now, because this is a partial solar eclipse, not that intense, and because it's intercepted, is conjunct the North Node, but this one is in Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. And the eclipse is in Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. So it's an odd energy because it's like a new beginning that comes at a loss. And eclipses usually come in two most of the time, sometimes three, but they are 2 weeks apart between the lunar and the solar eclipse, between the yin and the yang principle, implying both terminations and initiations. As one door closes, another opens. But this one is another indication of that, especially because we still have a stellium of planet in Pisces, the sign of loss, with Neptune in its own sign. That is the only planet in rulership, ruling terminations and ruling Pisces, while the new beginning is in Aries, the start of the zodiac year. So this is a tug of war between past and future. We are at the bending joint with one foot on the back and another one forward. But Neptune is at the 29 anaretic critical degree of Pisces, the last degree of the sign and the last degree of the zodiac. Is the end tail, the end of the end, about to burst when it goes into Aries, like wrapping up the era of Pisces. But this is not an overnight theme, as it takes decades and even centuries of overlapping energies in a spectrum of millennia. And astrologers don't agree on the timing of these changes, but with Pluto in Aquarius ushering in the area of Aquarius, I think that when the North Node moves into Aquarius too, we're pretty much there. And the last time Neptune went into Aries, it was the Civil War in 1861. If you see this eclipse chart and the chart of the beginning of the Civil War, Neptune is at the same degree and minute, and I think it already started with people vandalizing property of an appointed official, if you know what I mean. Pisces corresponds to the 12th house of letting go, while Aries is the start of the calendar, the zodiac calendar, that coincides with the spring equinox, ushering the rebirth of springtime after the death of winter. It's a resurrection theme in tandem with the cycles of nature. We have Easters around this time. In contrast with the Gregorian calendar, that the New Year's, it works actually better for the Southern Hemisphere as the seasons are flipped. The equinox stands for equal, both day and night, yin and yang, in a rebalancing act and evening of the scales of justice, that they are trying to set the record straight. And as you can see in the world stage, there is a struggle of things coming up to light. Now, this eclipse is 9 degrees of Aries, which is a significant degree, as we have both Mercury and Venus stationing retrograde at that point. And the eclipse is conjunct Mercury, ruler of communications and markets, and Mercury retrogrades often, like 3 times a year, so it's not that special except for the fact that it's conjunct the eclipse, but it's a wide conjunction anyway. And Venus, the ruler of harmony, peace and love, diplomacy, luxury and money, is more significant as it only retrogrades every year and a half. And Venus was in detriment in Aries when it's stationed, because Aries is bellicose. So these are opposing energies, and Mercury will retrograde back into Pisces after the eclipse, where it's in detriment too, where Pisces is the sign of confusion, the two fish running in opposite direction. So this is rather an uncomfortable energy, as Mercury loses the north in Pisces. And yet, that's where the North Node is, pointing to where we need to go. Through the dark tunnel, because Pisces is also about spirituality, and our only way out is the light at the end of it, like the birth through the canal, breaking the waters of Pisces and popping out the head, ruler of Aries, in its struggle to survive through this process. And as above, so below, this is ordained, like any challenge is so we can work on ourselves to upgrade, because that's why we're here. What some call the shaken to awaken. A spirit will never prioritize your comfort over your growth. Now, the ruler of the eclipse is Mars, the warrior planet, but is in detriment in Cancer, the sign of the home, the land, and the homeland, adding insult to injuring, getting defensive. So it's all about defense, but Mars is now direct and ready for the fight. Mars now is in good aspects with the North of Fate and Saturn, and is in good aspect with Venus, ruler of harmony, which is now exalted in Pisces. So the cosmic lovers are talking, and there's some give and take here, some room for negotiation, as we see in the world stage, where wars can be negotiated with diplomacy and or with economics, and that's where Mercury comes in. On a personal note, this depends of where this falls in your chart, but expect issues related with relationships and financial matters, because that's what Venus rules. Especially because Venus is conjunct Saturn, the planet of limitations, and that constrict an existing situation, where we have to work on the foundations to restructure our lives. And Venus is at the midpoint between the North Node, our star, our guide, and Neptune, the planet of illusion, and where there's illusion, there's disillusion and possible manipulation, gaslighting, and whatnot. So we're half between falling for the trap or rising above, moving forward. And where is there any cracks on the foundation on any of the above themes, financial, relationships, partnerships, they're going to show, and they're going to break open for you to replace that which no longer works. And that's where the ending and the new beginning comes. On the collective, there's a lot of fear about the economy with the tariffs or retaliation from other countries, though this is more about retaliation from the US. But nobody's talking about a convenient side effect of tariffs, and is if other countries won't buy what we produce in response, we would have more of our own inventory, and because its supply and demands determine prices, we can have lower domestic prices. Now, the cheapy things we get from China won't be that cheap any longer, so expect to see price fluctuations across the board. But again, it's a give and take, as past outsourcing has cost us greatly, both in job and industries in the US too. Now, with Venus and Mercury, the love, money, and communication planets respectively, are going to conjunct the planets of the stellium in Pisces with their back and forth dance, more than one, getting reactivated each time. As I'm working on this video over the weekend, I'm between the Venus and Mercury Cassimi, which is when these planets conjunct the Sun, illuminating the themes of this planet's rule and exalting their importance. As they move out of this conjunction, they get combust, which is like getting burned. So all these issues are very present and very pressing. Now, Venus Cassimi is also called the Venus star point, as it makes like a 5-point star in a period of 8 years, where it goes back to the same point, where it meets the Sun, both in the inferior and superior conjunctions as it goes retrograde and direct, respectively. And when it goes retrograde is about 40 days, which has a biblical connotation, like the Jesus exile to desert. And when it goes direct is about 9 months, which is like a gestation period. And when Venus is before the Sun is the morning star, where it's like a female warrior, where it's considered malefic. And when it's after the Sun is the evening star, where it's like a love goddess and considered benefic. So this process indicates like a dark night of the soul period until Venus stations direct on April the 13th. So expect to be done with this upheaval by tax season, and a lot can happen until then. Since Venus is trining Juno, the asteroid of partnerships, and also called moneta for coin at the time of the eclipse, sorry about that, This is another confirmation of the above themes of issues with love and money. In the background, we have Jupiter, the great benefic, making kind of like a wide sextile to the eclipse, but in detriment in Gemini, the sign of communications, because Jupiter is about belief and Gemini is about reason. So we have an information that challenge our beliefs coming up, like the recent information about what has been hiding under the pyramids. And now the CIA has released new information about the Ark of the Covenant and what's the relationship with the Holy Land and why there are so many wars and conflict in the area. And if you want to know more about that, follow Redacted. They just had interview a specialist in the matter. Now, Uranus, the surprise factor and ruler of tech, so AI and therefore crypto too, is also in good aspect with the nodes of fate, and making a harmonious grand sextile between the so-called malefics, Mars being the ruler of the eclipse, and Saturn, the ruler of authority and therefore government, restructuring the economic sector, since Uranus is in Taurus, the sign of money, values, and commodities. So this is tough love that comes to save the day, like a blessing in disguise. Since the malefics are involved, it might be experienced in a harsh way, like cutting unnecessary funding to allocate to necessary funding. So it's not obvious what is convenient here. And because we have an informational war, if you fall for the mainstream political theater, you're just going to get spooked. For more impartial information on what's actually going on behind the scenes, you can follow Clear Value Tax. Now, for the markets, eclipses are volatile, but the recent lows are the result of market manipulations, smart money trying to spook retail to scoop all the crypto cheap, now with the big boys in the game. And the stock market is showing its true colors, as it was overextended for a while now. But all this upheaval is partly orchestrated to usher a new financial system as the current one is collapsing. And as I mentioned before, the US Corp is bankrupt as the result of excessive printing to the point that tax money can't even pay the interest on the debt. This is akin to use your paycheck to pay the minimum due in all your credit cards. So something's got to give at some point. And I'm afraid that 2025 is that point, with all the outer planets changing signs, especially when the stellium in Pisces will move into Aries in the next couple of months. So there's a new beginning brewing, but that can go either way, so we have to stay vigilant. Historically, whenever the leads push too far, it backfire, and that's when you get revolutions, which they really stand for re-evolution. And with Pluto in Aquarius, power to the people, and rebel Uranus about to go into Gemini, the two minds that divide, and for the US, we're getting the Uranus return, which coincides with the civil war. And that's very telling, but we'll see. For the short term, it seems that we're over the hump with the markets, and having been in crypto for a while, I became comfortable with volatility. But to be honest, I had it with the market manipulation because it makes any prediction, which is already a difficult task, almost impossible. And the proof is in the pudding, as we've been waiting for an alt season for a while now, but it seems that it's not playing out as usual as we figure out the game, right? And that depends on Ethereum, which hasn't been performing according to the energetic influences either since the ETF. Yet, smart money keeps investing because they don't care about the day-to-day because they're in for the long game. So it's good to watch what they're doing if you can help it and not react to the volatility, as market tends to come back and then some, but this only applies to assets with big market caps and projects with solid infrastructure. So it's best to stay away from meme rug pulls, and if you want to play with shitcoins, know that you're gambling. It's like a casino out there. Thankfully, the solar eclipse will not only favor crypto, as Mars, the ruler of the eclipse, sextiles Uranus, the ruler of crypto, but the eclipse would also trine Bitcoin ascendant and Ethereum sun, which is very positive for both. And historically, April has been the second best performing month for Bitcoin, so I expect Bitcoin dominance for now. And Ethereum has been a major disappointment and delay in alt season, But if you follow Steve at Crypto Crew University, he makes a case comparing Ethereum technical analysis to that of XRP before the jump. And the astrology would second that, but we'll see. And again, I want to make a case for metals, as the Fort Knox audit is highly related to the reevaluation of gold, which is way overdue, as it last reevaluated was around $42 in 1973, when the market price for gold nowadays is hitting 3K, and that's by the London Fix, which is 5 major metal banks agreeing upon the market price of metals, and it's called Fix. Wink, wink, as to keep it control. So if the US revalues gold to market value, they will further push the market price, which could make a case for a second revaluation and so on, in which case the US government would be able to reduce the debt considerably. And I think that might be the plan. And silver, which historically has been like about 1:50 ratio with gold, meaning you need 50 times more silver to equal the price, now is a 1:95 ratio, meaning you need 93, meaning you need 93 silver coins for 1 gold coin. And we're talking about an ounce, right? So you want to make, I want to make a case for silver more so than for gold, especially now with Jupiter moving into Cancer mid-year, where it's exalted for a whole year, after which it will move to Leo. So it will go from benefiting silver to benefiting gold in the next couple of years. And there are many platforms out there, but I leave the platform that I use below, where you can open a metals account or IRS, or even better, a Roth IRA, not to pay on capital gains. So you won't save on taxes when you invest in a Roth, but you will save when you collect. So it's like paying taxes on seeds versus paying taxes on a full-grown plant. And you can even get a credit card with rewards in metals that you can allocate as per your choice, depending on silver, gold, or platinum. Now, until mid-year, Jupiter is still in Gemini and continues to favor sectors in the communications, travel, and tech industries. And I'm afraid we'll need to get some position in commodities and defense, because Uranus approaches Gemini and the world conflicts escalate. So the defense sector is something also to look for. And if you can get stocks with dividends, as stocks go up and down, you get paid quarterly anyway, which can be reinvested automatically or give you some cash to reinvest in other assets. I also recommend to follow Quiver Quantitative, that reports on insiders' information, Congress trading, lobbying, and wealth activity, to get a better picture. And if you want to automate your portfolio, they have partnered with Autopilot that follows a selected key figures like Pelosi and so on. And they even have inverse Kramer. And they sync with Robinhood for automation and hands-free experience, so you don't have to be on top of it. You don't have to bother. And this is for a small fee. I will leave the link below too. With that, I will leave you today. It takes me a while to make these videos, so please, it takes a second to like, and that helps me with the algorithm. Feel free to comment or make requests. I will try my best to honor them. And finally, hit the bell for notifications so you stay tuned. After this eclipse, I will continue to make videos every new moon to analyze the monthly cycle and skip the full moon chaos, as I'm getting quite busy, thankfully. And financial astrology works best on a midterm basis anyway, as influence don't always show up timely for the short term, and for the long term we lack context, so monthly reports are best. Until then, if you need a personal consultation, you can reach out to me to upsidersinformation at pm.me. Stay aware of scammers, I will never reach out. And that's when I can help you the best. When you reach out to me with a personal consultation, my prices are reasonable. Thanks again for your time. See you next time. Namaste.